University of Warwick and Edinburgh. You seem to be doing some really excellent stuff, and also seem to have quite some funds at disposal, which is also important. Now, the third presenter will be Volker HOFMANN from Humboldt in Innovation. He will talk about overcoming barriers of collaboration, another great challenge that we are all facing. So please, Volker.
Thank you. Also very happy to be here. I want to give you a perspective on how we deal with actually getting specific collaboration with industry partners in the field of contract research and scientific services. So how do we overcome barriers of collaboration in the field of actually the applied research? So some insights. Humboldt Innovation, we are the technology transfer office of Humboldt University in Berlin. We are a private company, 100% owned by the university, so the, let's say, typical private model of a technology transfer unit. Here's just some ideas of how Humboldt University is structured. About 500 professors and over 30,000 students. Maybe important is we don't have engineering, and our medical faculty is self-managed. So just to give you a perspective of how our potential for industry collaboration are. So it's more, let's say, a typical university, not an institute of technology or not a medical faculty where it's sometimes easier to address collaboration with industry. So that is our typical phases of technology transfer, knowledge and technology transfer. We put a lot of effort in actually scouting our research within the university, analyzing the potential of our research to later then transfer to the industry or society. It's using different, so we support different transfer channels there, IP, startups, applied research, trainings for industry, and so it's something we manage channel by channel, but of course also cross-channel activities. For example, when we use a database for addressing companies with certain needs. So that's just an introduction. Here, maybe some sorts of what are barriers and maybe some solutions for getting in contact with the industry. We conducting surveys to that issue from time to time. So let's say every 3 years we make together with our Chamber of Commerce a big a survey of barriers of transfer or collaboration between university and industry, and maybe some thoughts to that. So from the industry and company sides, we identify the typical barrier is, okay, I want to do a applied research project with a university. Who do I talk to? That's actually the biggest issue. Actually, they sometimes just don't know who do they ask. Do they go directly to the professor? Do they go to the administration? That's actually from the survey a big issue. Another one is that many of our collaboration partners is not the big industry, not the big international industry. We have those as well, the big corporates, but usually we also want to address our SMEs in the region. That's a very, very important collaboration partner for us. So the problem they have not the capacity to actually manage the project from the start to the end, to talk to the researchers. That's a big issue. Another one is the investment risk for the SMEs in general, to say, okay, if we take 50 or 100,000 euro in hands and going to invest it in a contract research project, for example, with our university, that's a big investment, and we want to make sure that we get a return there. Another one is that you have very different expectations. Of course, the industry says, yeah, it's speed, it's a clear result, and that's not something our researchers think of a collaboration project. So that's an issue. And non-disclosure and IP, I think that's pretty clear. From the university part, it's It's barriers is that it's difficult to get to have some transparency within the research, within the applied research, so that you get a fast entry into the research landscape. That's the next point also, that it would make it easier to have a single point of entry for industry within university, and that's sometimes quite difficult. Sometimes different faculties have different entry points, sometimes there's none at all, so that's a big issue. Bureaucracy is a topic. Again, different expectations now from the research part. So they rather want to, of course, conduct the research, and sometimes it's hard for them to have this mindset of a more entrepreneurial mindset to conduct a research project. Capacity, same issue here at our university. The lack of experience to deal with industry. And maybe also one important point is that you have missing incentives for research of an administration to deal with that, because in Germany it's mainly public funds and grants who are important for the research, and not mainly the funds from the industry. So there are some incentives too we have, which is very important, because the question is always from the researchers, why do I have to do it additionally to my job to use public grants? And the last point is, again, who I talk to. Of course, some researchers also want to address industry from their sides, and they have also difficulties actually to find the right contract partners. Some solutions I just want to show or present to you is, as what we do at Humboldt University is mobilize existing connections. So use your alumni network to address potential collaboration partners. Because when we conduct our surveys of barriers, the main success factor of actually getting the people or having a collaboration project is that the people know each other. So the main answer is not because I found it on the website or I visited an event. The main thing is I know them from some background. So it's an alumni of them, or it's a former researcher, so that you mobilize this potential. Another one is have a good key account management. So if you have already good partners, care about them. Yeah, and ask them maybe is there any additional project. So that's something you as university can focus on. Next thing is support the chances of new connections. So if we know that the personal contact between a researcher and a partner from industry is important, you can support that. For example, pay them trade fair grants, organize events, train your researchers for talking to the industry. That's very important, because some really have a problem to pitch their research to industry, because no one understands what that means. So we actually train our researchers to present their research in a rather industry understandable way. Another point is a proactive transfer marketing. So you have to know your research at university. From the TTO perspective, that's really our main goal. We really have to know what we can offer, map this applied research, and then you know what you are talking about. Again, events, use intermediaries. For example, we have companies in Germany who help you to get in contact with the industry. Sometimes you have to pay them, but that's also a way to get in contact with them. Make collaboration as easy as possible. Of course, maybe I have to say, but a TTO centralizes knowledge and experience. For me, it's a success factor. A private TTO has an ability to set private incentives among the employees, have some speed advantage, and has itself an entrepreneurial mindset, because it is a company, and that often makes things easier to collaborate with the industry. And then you can also use some different tools, for example, fast-track contracts, where you have a set of contracts which are non-negotiable, but if the industry takes it, then it's much faster in regards to contracts you may have to negotiate more. Work on the incentives. So have a good incentive system for technology transfer at your universities. That's my experience, very important. and lobby for grants for the industry, for example. So we have some great grants here in Germany, especially for SMEs, where they actually can start to have their first contract research project, and really as a teaser, and that works very well. So we developed many collaborations over the years by this teasing grants for contract research to really build a strong collaboration. And the last point is data, data, data. So collect what works, what doesn't work, and put really a focus on monitoring, really a focus on conducting surveys, understand your customer, and then develop your strategy there. Yep, that's from my side here, a short overview of our map of research expertise. It's really an easy way to find your right research partner at Humboldt University. And that's from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's great to see also a Continental example. We have noticed, all of us, I'm sure, that there are some differences between British approach and what can we do in other countries in the continent. Do we have any questions from the audience? I don't see any, so please feel free to ask them. But in the meantime, I have a question for all three speakers, basically. So we have seen the examples of the centers that are actually dedicated centers to interdisciplinary research and collaboration with industry. My question is, how important do you think it is to actually have these dedicated units, as opposed to have sort of a virtual unit that is composed of people and resources embedded in the more traditional university structure? So who would like to go first? Michael, I see that you have switched off the mic, please.
So I think it's a very good question. I think, you know, of course, most universities, you know, do technology transfer and have a support infrastructure for that. I think what is important is that external parties have a place they can go to. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a physical building and a big center, although we do have to say that when we opened, we were very surprised how much interest there was to have a place in the city center where the university is no longer a closed place for scholars and students, but it's open to the whole world. And I think it's important for the outside world to have that place they can go to. When you're then mixing people up physically, I think that's part of a bigger culture change that takes a long time. So in our building, we have, you know, for example, a robotics lab where the robotics people still, by and large, do mostly their research. You know, when the students come in, they do their experiments with the robots. But I think just creating a culture and a place where people are not just surrounded by people who are like themselves is really important to make this sort of collaboration across boundaries become normal. And that's a long process, and by no means one that we've it's not a problem we have solved. As Volker was saying, you know, there are obstacles, and there is a lot of hard work you need to do, and we also don't have an expectation that all researchers will be interested in this. But I think if it becomes more of kind of, you know, business as usual, that all kinds of departments. So we have also, for example, 3 or 4 university departments represented in the center, and that kind of starts making it a normal part of what they do, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, great. Volker?
Yeah, well, maybe 2 points. I'm absolutely with Michael that so we also run the startup service for the university, for example. Yeah, and as the incubator space, the physical incubator space is for me the success factor for our startup service things, because we need to get the people together. It definitely, and that also will work for the next 10 years. maybe later, I don't know, but for the next thing, definitely, it's very important. And to have, in the end, dedicated people for technology transfer it's important, because we have really a problem that the technology transfer in Germany, let's say, really got better over the past 10 to 15 years. Yeah, and still we have the problem that some of our people, and it's a people business, yeah, are funded for 2, 3, or 4 years, you know, and then the knowledge is gone. So the brain drain is immense. Yeah, so really have a dedicated people, well financed, and have a sustainability in the system. It's so important for a successful technology transfer, because you not just build up knowledge, you in the end build up a network, and the network is the main asset of every technology transfer unit. And if people go, yeah, or you have only for 2 or 3 years, the network is gone, and you have to rebuild it, and that's so inefficient, and it's frustrating. So I'm happy that over the past 5 years we have improved there a lot, but that's why it's important that we have a fixed structure at a university to really rely on.
Great. Terry, would you like to add something to this, or?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Michael and Volker, actually. I mean, we've spent a lot of time with, one of the challenges about building physical centres and institutes is that you can, they can become entities in their own right that become isolated from if you're not involved with them, you're sort of the outside looking in, and that's not the intent. So we spent a lot of time trying to make them open and transparent, you know, simple things like putting cafes and restaurants inside the buildings and making that open to other people, so it demystifies what goes on in these places. It sounds very simple, but actually it's really important, otherwise people don't know what those institutes do. I think absolutely the other key point is that they're the doors, they're the place that people come to, and then they can access the rest of the university ecosystem, whether that be technology transfer, whether it be other parts of the university for specific pieces of research and things like that. And those big sort of programs of work that I put up, that's how they've grown. Actually, they've come in via one door, and then that door's opened up to everyone else, and other opportunities that have been capitalized on it. There's still a place for virtual centers as well, and we think probably post-COVID there's probably a bit of resurgence in that as well, with people's different working styles, and also the fact that companies are now looking. Geography is no longer perhaps a primary relationship builder, which is what we found before. People tend to find work in proximity of universities within their proximity. But of course, with this complete change of doing things, that is now open for question. So there's opportunities there to have sort of semi-virtual institutes as well that have a far greater global reach.
Well, thanks. We have a question from the participant. It's from Francois, I think. It's where do you put the cursor in the risk taking for your institution when taking shares in the startups? Are you allowed to do this? You are probably in your countries. Here we have issues with this, unfortunately. But yeah, Michael?
So, I mean, I can say a little bit about this. I mean, I don't think we see our primary role as investors, of course, but we do have we have set up a fund where the university also will sometimes invest in them. I think you know, it's very often it becomes a matter of you know, what does the risk balance look like, and what are the funding opportunities for these companies at their respective stage. So, you know, you may have sometimes a couple of students working on something great, and they don't really need a lot of money. And we don't really want to create a big difficulty for them when they then seek further funding by taking a lot of equity. So it may be much more advisable to give them, you know, very small grants so they can survive for 6 months to build their product. So I don't necessarily think, I mean, there are some cases where we do that, and I think those are, they tend to be the sorts of things where we really think there is a lot of potential for the IP. So it's not, you know, if you want to build a small app and take that to market, great. But if you've got really a core technology that's very closely linked to the work of the university, then that sort of thing might be more interesting to have a longer term stake in. But I think we are not certainly, I mean, the answer to the question of where we, how risk seeking or risk averse we are definitely not venture capitalists, you know, in the traditional sense. And I think, you know, if they looked at us, we would be probably relatively risk averse.
Yeah. Any more thoughts? Yeah, Volker?
Same as our institution. So we take, it's more IP driven from our side. So if we have an IP, that's our chance actually to take equity. We don't have a fund or so. So if we use the asset IP to take shares, and on the other side, we put a rather strong focus on having a strong founders alumni network, so that when they become successful 10 or 12, 15 years later, I go to them and ask for some funds because they are so happy to do a part of our university. That is a strategy for at least our university. It's a long-term strategy. It works in the US, so they are quickly do that, but that's also, so using IP as an asset for taking shares, and the rest is rather alumni management. We don't have the time.
Okay, great. We also have a follow-up question to this, also from Francois Bussy. And maybe Carrie, you can, you know, take this one. Do you experience limitations in researcher publication of results with respect to non-disclosure conditions set by industry? Also an important question for all of us, I think.
I'll be honest with you, I don't think we do. We generally have, it's all about that relationship and transparency and trust. So we tend to have a set of principles about what can and can't be published, and maybe there's a time limitation put on things, etc., etc. But what we also find is that actually our partners want us to publish. Not necessarily everything, they want us to publish because it gives them a credibility in the marketplace of the things that they're developing. So that's a different sort of approach. The old approach of universities want to publish everything and industry wants to publish nothing has actually gone away. And very often with a lot of the research funding opportunities that come along in the UK, dissemination of sorts is a mandatory requirement. So the whole sort of open science agenda and things like that. So it's not really a problem. We obviously don't give away the crown jewels too early in the game, though.
Yes, thank you so much. I see that we have run out of time. Thank you very much to all three speakers. They were excellent examples. And as it was already posted in the chat, this will be available in the website. So to you, Luciano.
Yes, thank you very much, Tanja, for chairing so well also this session. It has been a great event for me, very interesting. And I would like to also thank, of course, again, at the University of Ljubljana, Utopia, for this very nice cooperation. I mentioned that research is very important for UNICA. We organize an important event in October, again, on interdisciplinary research with some of the speakers who also were present today. And that was more focused on funding because we wanted to be pragmatic and also offer practical solutions for interdisciplinary research, because we know that sometimes we have good ideas, but we need to give, as we say, legs to ideas sometimes. And so funding can be also very useful in that direction. And also that we are planning another event, which will be organized in April, on the 20th of April, on innovation models in research, and also focus on the cooperation with industry and entrepreneurship. So very soon on the UNICA website, this other webinar will be announced. So, and I hope again that some of the participants who were online today will participate again, and maybe others from UNICA universities will be interested. So many thanks again to the chairs, to the participants, to the speakers, to the University of Ljubljana, and to the UNICA Secretariat, and I would like to leave the floor to Rector Papic for the closing.
Thank you, Luciano. Just a few words from my side as well at the end of this two-part seminar. I'm really happy that I had the opportunity to listen to these interesting discussions, not only today, but also 2 weeks ago. For me, the conclusion is very clear. You know, the future will be interdisciplinary. That's the fact. And I'm also pointing out many times at many occasions that it's not just the question how we are preparing ourselves to educate our students. You know, I'm also promoting the idea of so-called Society 2050 or Society 5.0, meaning that we have to work together. On one side, we have natural sciences, engineering, and on the other side, SSH, social sciences and humanities. Only by working together, we can create new solutions, new products. And to be honest, even today, if you are involved in more applied science, you will see that closer than we are to the final products, to the final solutions or services, more different disciplines is involved in this process. So, of course, on one side, I do not believe that we will be able to create in the future profiles like in one person that we will have expert in all fields. But I think the main message from my side is that we have to work together, so that we have to combine different disciplines in our processes of future creation of our technological and also public solutions. So not to be too long, also from my side, I have to thank you, especially presenters, session chairs and participants for being with us in this two-part seminar, and really looking forward to see you soon at some occasion. Thank you.
Goodbye to everyone, and thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.